please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's Log, Supplemental. Even royalty, ex-royalty can get filled in on this channel, especially when they've proved me right. They're the worst type of grifters, worse than the likes of FFFFFFG. At least with royalty, you can count on them being moderately washed, I guess. Welcome to another edition of Where Are They Now? This one is impromptu, but it was suggested perhaps a good idea to have a quick recap of what's been going on this year for Prince Harry. You could include Meghan Markle as well, of course the brains of the duo, but Harry is of course for me a prince in my country, in name only. So you could call him Pinot, if you like. There are some obvious jokes in there when it comes to Noir, Pinot Grigio, if you like. Make them here. I prefer Pinot Solus, or Pinot Illegitimate. They're my favourite kinds of wines. So what I'm going to do, I am going to go over everything we've covered this year concerning Prince Harry. There have been a few, I think, I'm hoping. It should make this a lot easier to be able to compile his activities, because it does end on a semi-positive note for him. Within the space of 24 hours, the Daily Mail produced at least 8 articles talking about Prince Harry. Why? Because The Guardian got early access to his book titled Spare. It is why this video is titled Pouty Prince of the Spare Child Realm. The reason spare child is because that's what Prince Charles said to Diana when she gave birth to Harry. I have one to succeed and a spare child, which I can see as a joke. I actually think there's some inaccuracies to this though, not least because Harry does not look anything like Charles. He looks more like James Hewitt, the guy alleged to have had an affair with Diana. But of course I don't want to be accused of peddling false news. It's mere speculation that's been going on for a long time. What I thought I'd do is start with Rotten Tomato and build our way up to all those articles in the Daily Mail and then some other articles from different outlets, because I don't want you to just think this is a conservative channel. Again though, the Daily Mail really don't like Harry at the moment. They really don't. I'm hardly the biggest fan either. It's why Prince Harry is on my right screen. Yes, you see that lol cow? Do you like it? I don't use it very often. I really should. On Rotten Tomato, Harry and Meghan's documentary, their 6-part series of their courtship, their love story, the challenges that led them to retreat from life as working royals, along with commentary from friends, family, and historians. The friends are biased beyond reckoning. The family only include select clips from very rare individuals and do not include the more prominent members of the royal family or Meghan's father. Historians. Yes, revisionist. The average tomato score is 40%. The average audience score 18%. Now you can say this has been review bombed, sure, but we the Brits, even those that were kind of on Harry and Meghan's side, realise this is nothing more than intellectually dishonest gaslighting of the British people and journalists. And I don't think Harry or Meghan know what gaslighting means. No, I'm not going to bother with a definition. They're not going to watch this video. They are far too busy sniffing their own farts and pretending that they don't want anything to do with public life while making millions from public life. Part of me had speculated early on the only reason they walked away from the royal family was because they could make more money on their own. And I think we can all ignore the fact that at the time, Prince Charles had paid towards the mansion they live in, because as is well established, Prince Charles is a terrible father. What's interesting about these tomato scores is Harry and Meghan's series in Netflix ratings actually beat The Crown. Viewing figures, 2.4 million tuned in to watch the documentary on the day of its release, which is more than double of that who go to watch The Crown, which receives about 1.1 million viewers. Although I would argue The Crown is in its final season, it's not comparable to something that's considered to be more of a bombshell, something which many of the reviewers indicate it is not. Many of us on YouTube have also said it is not because it is revisionist, also using clips that are completely out of context and also not related. By doing so, they undermine their entire message, and because Harry and Meghan are so balls deep in the entire conversation and the production of it, when you get paid this much money, it's understandable you want to be more hands-on so you don't give as much to other people. You would have thought they would have known the clips they were using were wrong. They could have easily pulled them back, but they didn't. So Prince Harry's book, which has yet to be released yet, was released to The Guardian. I do have the article by The Guardian that goes into this, and it is quite interesting. But I like the idea that some outlet has decided I'm going to make 8 articles about all of this, but also include other information we may not have known. And I'm going to start with something I didn't know that is claimed by Harry. The claim is that William and Kate had told him to wear the Nazi uniform to then laugh at him when they saw him in it. Because at the time, Harry had been considering either the Nazi uniform or a pilot uniform. They said Nazi, and yeah, he went as a Nazi, allegedly. This is all, by the way, from his book. The event he was attending was native and colonial. That was the theme. I'm intrigued by the Nazi aspect of that. Now, with regards to the book, much like with the Harry Potter books, people have been hiring extra guards for when it is released because it is thought to be this explosive, this honest, that behind the veil look at the royal family from the perspective of somebody who was once an active member of it can be considered quite titillating. So much so, publishers involved in this book are refusing to release it until the very last moment to make sure no unauthorized copies make their way onto the internet. There's a high chance that could fail. Once even a tiny sliver of information reaches the internet, you are unlikely to be able to remove it. But I do wish you the best of luck in that. It is also alleged in that same book that after the incident, Harry went on a grand tour to repair the damage, meeting rabbis, Holocaust survivors, to try and make this right. Or to quote him, all I wanted to do was make it right. I sat down and spoke to the chief rabbi in London, which had a profound impact on me. I went to Berlin and spoke to a Holocaust survivor. I could have got on and ignored it and made the same mistakes over and over in my life, but I learnt from it. The implication from this is that Harry was thrown under the bus by William for not taking responsibility for the fact that he may have condoned this costume because he thought it was so funny. And if anyone was interested in what William was wearing, there aren't many pictures of it. William was dressed in a skin-tight black leotard with a leopard skin pattern and a matching leopard skin tail and paws. Prince Harry has claimed his brother William grabbed him by the collar and threw him to the floor during a heated argument over his wife Meghan Markle. The furious row allegedly broke out at his London home in 2019, which William, the now Prince of Wales, is said to have branded Meghan difficult, rude and abrasive. Harry accused his brother of parroting the press narrative about his wife before a screaming match ensued, ending in a physical altercation. Many times before the Queen had passed away, Queen Elizabeth herself and Prince Charles, now King Charles, had begged them both to end this. Prince Charles was quoted as saying, "Please boys, don't make my final years a misery." My view on this has always remained the same. Oh look, 2 brothers fighting. What a totally original idea that has never happened to anyone ever in the history of humanity. I'm assuming we're going to ignore that Liam and Noel Gallagher have been fighting for years over their respective wives. And they can be argued in the music industry to be a form of royalty as well, also thought of as absolute trash. Prince Harry also claimed that he was left with a very visible injury to his back because of how he landed on the floor. Harry claims that William was not being rational, which then led to the shouting match when it came to discussing Meghan. Harry said he told his brother he was unable to understand why he was not happy with being the spare, accusing his brother of acting like an heir. William told him he was trying to help him. Harry claims to have replied, "Are you serious? Help me? Sorry, is that what you call this? Helping me?" It was this comment, according to Harry, which infuriated William, causing him to swear while stepping towards him. Harry said that he was in turn scared and retreated to the kitchen as William followed. He claims to then have given William a glass of water and told him, "Willie, I can't speak to you when you're like this." He further wrote, "He set down the water, called me another name, then came at me. It all happened so fast, so very fast. He grabbed me by the collar, ripping my necklace, and he knocked me to the floor. I landed on the dog's bowl, which cracked under my back, the pieces cutting into me. I lay there for a moment dazed, then got to my feet and told him to get out." That necklace, by the way, just because it tickles me to no end, was a gift by his ex-girlfriend Chelsea Davy. Aren't you supposed to get rid of stuff given to you by exes? Harry then continues to claim that William offered him the chance to hit him back, but because Harry's a very devout pacifist that served in the military and saw frontline action, he decided, "Nah, I'm above this." It's not because he was scared of his brother who's bigger, taller, faster, stronger. No. It's because he's a spiritual man. In fact, straight after this, the Archangel here called his therapist to talk about it. And if you're assaulted in your home, you could have called the police. That would have been more entertaining, don't you think? See some Rozzers turn up at the palace and go, "Yo, William, we need to have a little word, fam. We're slapping you with an asbo. Do get one of your servants to send for you, you celebach." When William left, Harry claims again that William said to him, "You don't need to tell Meg about this," with Harry responding, "You mean that you attacked me?" To which William said, "I didn't attack you, Harold." Harry also claims he did not tell Meghan at first what had happened, but because of the visible damage to his back, she noticed it when she was fucking him up the arse. As far as pre-sales go for this book, which is expected to be monstrous in sales figures, it's already number 2 on Amazon's bestseller list in pre-sales in North America and the UK. It'll in turn do well because it'll make fantastic bedding for hamsters in their houses. Or, in an emergency, wiping your own arse. What's fascinating to me is that while all this is being released early, this information, these excerpts, this juicy gossip, I feel like Rich Lex, Harry has been saying the ball's in the court of the royal family to make amends and reconcile with him. It is still unknown if Harry will attend the coronation of his father, and the royal family are still not responding to this. Why? Because, as the title of the video goes, it's a fairly accurate descriptor. One side of events does not give us a full picture, and as has already been debunked on multiple occasions, the 6-episode thingy-majiggy they're doing on Netflix, while doing well in numbers, is a colossal waste of energy, hiding behind buzzwords to suit an agenda. By the way, that's only one of the Daily Mail's articles. So let's now move on to the next article. Questions are being asked about the leak of Prince Harry's highly anticipated autobiography to the US edition of The Guardian, which has reported on its sensational claims about rifts among the royals. I find this fascinating. The title of the article I'm reading from now is "How Did Left-Wing Guardian Get a Leaked Copy of Prince Harry's Book Spare? Red faces at Duke's publisher's New York-based reporter gets copy of bombshell autobiography 6 days early." A blunder perhaps, but actually it wouldn't be so hard or far-fetched to believe that Harry and Meghan, while claiming to despise all journalists, would happily leak one copy to them to get a suitable response. It was hardly going to go to Fox News after all. The Guardian seems the safest of options, where they'd be treated with a level of reverence, especially an American outlet. The Guardian states it managed to obtain a copy of the book despite stringent security measures by publisher Penguin Random House ahead of its release on Tuesday. The memoir's claims are detailed by The Guardian's New York breaking news reporter Martin Pengelly on its website, with many reporting on this in unison and agreement, saying that they're not entirely convinced how the brothers can reconcile after this, especially because of the detailing of them two fighting. It is believed that King Charles will come out of it better than anyone would have expected, but it should be in turn tough on William and Kate. The deal that Harry and Meghan had signed with the publishing giant is apparently worth $20 million and is a 4-book deal. I'm kinda hoping that this one opens the eyes, while it'll do well in sales, to the vast amount of criticism they're undoubtedly going to get when people just say, "You do realise literally everyone fights. This is not fresh. We don't think you're suddenly going to be like the bestest of best pals all the time, you know." But as I earlier stated, they've been latching on to buzzwords and usual soundbite cliches to get their points across. Harry will undoubtedly feel like he is the lone wolf in all of this. And what he's doing for his family. Which is interesting because your fight with William happened in 2019. Your first child was born then. So the issues you had with your brother predate the very family that you are annoyed about not getting the titles you want them to get from King Charles. Another reason you might not turn up to the coronation. But I actually agree with Charles here. You are not functioning members of the royal family anymore, therefore the entitlement to those titles ends. But also Charles wants to create a more streamlined royal family. Therefore, titles need to, well, not be spread out so thin like butter on toast. Basically Bilbo's brain after 100+ years of life. The title means very little and doesn't do you anything, and unless your children intend to become working royals, which won't be likely anyway, the whole point of them being given those titles is redundant. On Tuesday, this book will be released worldwide at the same time. That is to ensure that those in other countries don't see it before anyone else. A lot of effort has gone in to making this happen. That includes on the Kindle store as well, for pre-orders, and I'm not surprised. It is going to sell a lot of copies. There's no doubt of that. Harry will make a lot of money, some of which I would highly recommend he use to pay back his dad for buying the house for him. You know, the very father he's dunking on. The very family that did have his back, but he turned his back on them because he never bothered to tackle the problems that were plaguing his mental health for a long time. Issues coupled with the fact that his brother was destined to be the king will have undoubtedly just added to the fracturing between them. I'd be half tempted to buy the book solely so I could review it, but that sounds like a waste of my money, when I could just go to Poundland, buy some of their novelty loo roll, and read that. I'm sure it'll say exactly the same thing that Harry's book says. Recently it was announced via Twitter and the BBC defund the BBC, Prince Harry will attend King Charles's coronation, but Meghan will stay in California with their children, Buckingham Palace has said. There had been much in the way of speculation as to whether or not Harry would attend. For the sake of optics, he has to attend, and also because he is one of 2 children, supposedly, sired by the king. Although let's face it here, he does not look like his dad in the slightest. His face is far too small for such a big head. More than 2,000 people are expected to attend Westminster Abbey on May the 6th for the coronation itself. It will also mark the first time Prince Harry will be seen with the royal family since his memoir, Spare, was published. That rather pricey doorstop that was already on sale for like half price the moment it was released. That's not damage control now, is it? In that memoir, which made him look like a whiny emo boy, but slightly well edited comparative to that of a diary, he wrote vividly about the depths of his disagreements with other members of the royal family, and that he felt different from the rest of his family. I mean, the priorities were always to make sure the lines of succession were important. Prince Charles, now King Charles, has always maintained a very eco stance on many issues, and has sought to try and rebuild the relationship with the public, which he succeeded in doing. It took him decades to do it. You shat on that by making some rather false claims. The decision for Meghan to reject the invitation will be seen as part of these unresolved family tensions. I don't think it's that. She's not needed. How about that? We don't need Netflix there also taking photos for their own little specials. And rather amusingly, while he attends to his father for his coronation while citing father issues in his own little grievances, he misses his son's 4th birthday, which is on the same day. I can't wait for your son to release his own memoir called Spare Jr. Whatever the part he'd play in the coronation itself, I do hope it be minimal and he be sat in the peanut gallery. While no doubt Charles will want him somewhere nearby because it's his son, you can be certain that he, Harry, and his brother William will not really want to do much in the way of conversing with one another because, well, one of them's a bitch and the other one's a future king of England. Harry, though, has issued a warning to King Charles over the toxic atmosphere, with some demands for the coronation itself, because Harry actually wanted a summit with King Charles and Prince William to discuss their issues before the event itself. It has also since been updated that Harry will be seated with other non-working members of the royal family, along with those he has no bad blood with. My view? Again, peanut gallery right at the back behind everyone. In fact, stick him behind Jill Biden, because Joe wouldn't make it through the ceremony. Stick him behind Jill. Harry's also not expected to take part in the King's procession, the coronation procession, to and from Buckingham Palace, nor will he be on Buckingham Palace balcony after the coronation, a tradition akin to that of the Vatican. When they announce a new pope, the new pope walks out onto a balcony to the masses. A source close to the royal family has said that Harry's been very clear and his position hasn't wavered. He isn't going to come if he feels the atmosphere will be as toxic as it was during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee and funeral. He said he wants to reconcile with his family, and it's their call, but so far nothing has changed. As an update to this, it was announced that Harry will definitely attend the ceremony, because according to a friend of the couple, Harry and King Charles had had some positive conversations. Harry, though, has yet to speak to William as part of this reconciliation. I think, for the sake of what happens going forward, I think Harry shouldn't be allowed to attend in the first place. He should have his royal title stripped from him, and quite frankly, he should sod back off to Ivory Towers, Silicon Valley, because I actually don't give a crap what he does. He's not a working royal member of the family. He's just a bitch. A whiny, annoying man-child. He has been that for a while, and all these demands, a power play, isn't going to work, because on May the 6th, King Charles III's reign will officially begin. Harry doesn't have to be there for that, but the next in line does. In fact, the only person that looks bad if you don't turn up is you. Harry, that is. So with the discussion of a shot clitoris out of our systems, we now need to move on. So the next subject I was going to consider making an honourable mention because I wasn't entirely sure how this was news. Comes from GB News, that new channel thing that happened last year or the year before. It's kind of around, titled Prince Harry and Meghan Markle breaking apart as couple leading separate lives. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are breaking apart and leading separate lives according to a royal commentator. Celia Walden is the commentator, by the way, believes that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are pursuing different agendas. She added the couple's public duties are resulting in them leading slightly separate lives. That word slightly is quite important, saying she wants the attention kept firmly on her because that is where the attention should always be, forgetting here that without Harry, her name is only really known for Suits. And that without him pursuing what he is trying to pursue, which is an unironic not wanting journos in his life while simultaneously wanting him in his life, again, they're nothing. Celia continued by saying, I think also there are already whispers of the idea that Harry and her seem to be breaking apart from each other in terms of their agendas. Slightly. They are both sort of leading slightly separate lives in terms of their public duties at the moment. And I suppose that is tricky for her because she needs the whole couple thing to be front and centre. I get the impression from this royal commentator, everything's Meghan's fault. That's good to know. Despite this claim, by the way, Harry and Meghan were seen having a date on Monday night, which was at a basketball match in LA where Meghan snubbed a kiss from Harry. Handily, whereas this could be an honourable mention, this actually leads to another GB News article. The Duke of Sussex confessed in his book Spare to taking illicit substances. An American think tank is going to sue the US government over Prince Harry's immigration files to confirm whether the 38-year-old admitted past illegal drug use on his visa application. The think tank is called Heritage Foundation, and it has been calling for Washington to release the paperwork over the past few months, because this potential lie especially, is quite important. In his memoir, he admitted to taking marijuana, magic mushrooms, and sherbet. The mushrooms were of course made of marshmallow. The Foundation filed a legal complaint against the Department of Homeland Security in an attempt to enforce a Freedom of Information request, which then grants them access to Prince Harry's visa application. I'm actually somewhat surprised it hasn't been made public sooner. I don't understand the American system though. In the UK, Freedom of Information Acts, generally, they're not dawdled on too much. There's a little bit of dawdling when it comes to inter-party freedom of information stuff, but public, you really have to be careful. Our country is a lot smaller after all. The think tank has said, the request is in the public interest in light of the potential revocation of Prince Harry's visa for illicit substance use and further questions regarding the prince's drug use. The reason this is considered quite severe is because generally in America, if you've admitted previous use of narcotics, you are denied entry to the US. Former federal prosecutor Niyama Ramani told Page 6 an admission for drug use is usually grounds for an inadmissibility. I consider this quite important, especially when you consider the daughter, Lilibet, was born in Santa Barbara. Archie, no, he was born in London, so he and Harry can leave essentially. Although son could stay with mother, I think it'd be quite funny for Harry to be removed from the country, to go back to the UK and beg for us to give him police protection 24/7 while he continues to crap on journalists and the people of this nation. Because he loves it here, everyone. He's a team player. Can William chin him again, please? And do us all a solid? You got more chance of everyone saying hail to the king and swearing allegiance to William if he chins Harry first. Unlike Charles. Oh, for those who are curious, Harry has claimed the reason he took these things like marshmallow mushrooms, sherbet, and marijuana, is to help him deal with trauma. Quote, it removed it all from me and brought me a sense of relaxation, release, comfort, a lightness that I managed to hold on to for a period of time. Pussy. Prince Harry and his legal team are suing the Mirror Group newspapers, wiretapping and other such things, right? He believes his property had been hacked, he's been stalked, harassed. The usual, really. The standard stuff for Prince Harry. One of the key witnesses helping Prince Harry's legal team is Graham Johnson. Graham Johnson is a former tabloid journalist and convicted phone hacker. Interesting. He also wrote a book in which he boasted about being very good at faking the right human emotion and responses. He since became a whistleblower and devotes himself to exposing alleged illegal activity in Fleet Street, and was described as the spider at the centre of the web of several ongoing court cases brought by the Duke of Sussex. Let's just call him Prince Harry. I was born in West Sussex, we don't need that shit in our lives. Graham Johnson accepted that he was assisting the legal team, acting for the Prince and other 4 witnesses that were giving evidence at his suggestion, and admitted he was not an objective witness, but has denied any suggestion from Andrew Green KC acting for the Mirror that his skills of deception could be used in the witness box if needed. The problem Graham Johnson has, and I guess by extension Prince Balding here, is that he has already admitted to it in the past. The prosecution doesn't have to do much other than present the fact that you have said you can do it. By extension, you are a crap witness. A whistleblower, sure, but you are not a trustworthy one, which is all they have to do. A minor discredit here and there, a small amount of poisoning the well, and you, as a whistleblower, are of no use to anyone in this trial. That, of course, is now up to jury when it gets to that stage. But if the seed is planted, I cannot imagine it going particularly well for Prince Balding or the whistleblower. Now, that's one thing I wanted to address quickly, because that's an ongoing case, and we can certainly come back to it once it has concluded. Now we're going to skip ahead to something that featured in the news, took place in New York City on Tuesday last week, involving paparazzi, Harry, and his wife Meghan, allegedly. And I have to insert that word because there are some bones of contention with the story given, along with a number of holes within the story evidence. Basically, scrutiny doesn't stack up as well as it comes across as. But we shall see. Paparazzi were involved in an alleged car chase in New York City last Tuesday and have blamed the incident on the couple's reckless driver. Backgrid USA Inc. assigned 4 photographers to the Miss Foundation Gala on Tuesday night, where the Duchess of Neh received a Women of Vision award. Oh, a nice fraudulent thing to be given. Cool. The company said one of the 4 SUVs from Prince Harry's security escort was driving in a manner that could be perceived as reckless. The vehicle was seen blocking off streets, and in one video it is shown being pulled over by the police. Shocker, because you shouldn't do that shit, you're not the president. 3 photographers, hired by the agency, followed the couple in cars after they left the gala, while one pedaled after them on his bicycle. According to the photographers present, there were no near collisions or near crashes. The photographers have reported feeling that the couple was not in immediate danger at any point. The company said it is conducting a thorough investigation into the matter. This is being touted as a near-catastrophic car chase involving paparazzi. Why? Because of course what happened to Harry's mother. And we don't want history to repeat itself, yet for a number of outlets they're trying to portray it as such. A bit disingenuous, clickbaity, but that's not surprising. Prince is dead and they need the attention. I should insert now, Harry is a hypocrite. He doesn't want the attention, yet he does everything he can to get the attention. His wife does not help him in the slightest. Think of it like iDubbbz. He says sorry in a video for dropping the N-word, yet a year earlier, his wife admitted that she was the reason he said it in the first place. Your wives are not helping you, gentlemen. Might I suggest finding a path forward where you are not cuckolded? Cuckolded? Yeah, that. Now, some royal fans claim that the paparazzi have learned nothing from Diana, with many taking to social media to express their horror, which is where the suggestion of this resembling Princess Diana comes about. You cringe lords need to stop it. Prince Harry is not important enough, he doesn't want attention, yet he goes around begging for it. I'm not saying he deserves to be harangued, not in the slightest, so don't try and tell me I'm saying this or victim blaming or any of that crap. It doesn't work with me. Harry and Meghan desperately want the attention. They need it to make money. They need it so they can seem more important than they are. Because while not wanting to, they simultaneously want to tear down the royal family. Because Harry wants to be king, really. He can say he doesn't, but let's face it here, he really does. A statement from Backgrid Inc. USA says that we do not condone any form of harassment or illegal activity. We are taking Prince Harry's allegations seriously. Defamation will be a fantastic lol suit and we can all do with a good laugh. A spokesperson for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle said those people and Miss Ragland were involved in a near catastrophic car chase at the hands of a ring of highly aggressive paparazzi. You and I need to have a little discussion, Harry. about what a near-catastrophic car chase is, what highly aggressive paparazzi are, this is important, because I don't think you understand, given where you were, how none of this makes any sense at all. To prove the point, I'm going to read a tweet. I live in New York, people. I run into famous people in the streets, stores, restaurants, trains when I go into the city. There is no way there was a 2-hour car chase of Paps after Harry and Meghan. People here don't give a fudge. 4 cars, blacked out windows, maybe in the UK, but here, get the fudge out of here. Oddly, you can rule out most of the United Kingdom as well. We don't have the space for it. When it does happen, it is very rare, but it's never 2 hours. It really isn't. London, it's impossible. Too much Big Brother, the roads are too narrow, they're not designed for cars because we built the city around the horse carriage roads. It's just not big enough. New York City is a grid. It is not possible for that to have happened. And we know it didn't happen, yet some are trying to fob it off as such. How tragic. Prince Harry's current security is unaware of dilemmas, says a former bodyguard, who says his current security team lack experience. Obviously, they treat him as if he's a president. There are claims that they were subjected to a relentless pursuit involving 6 blacked-out vehicles driving recklessly. Kevin Worf, who used to take Harry to school when he was 3 years old, said the current security were unaware of what dilemmas seem to be. Okay, I think the dilemma is thinking you're more important than you actually are. The former bodyguard told PA News Agency there seems to be a lack of chemistry between them, Harry and Meghan. The departure from the hotel was chaotic before they began their wacky drive through New York. Harry needs to be part of the planning. He knows the dangers better than anyone. You need a relationship with the people you are protecting. Until that happens, things like this will happen again. It is also alleged that those involved in the incident were confronted by uniformed police several times. About that, New York Police Department dismisses Harry and Meghan's account of the chase, saying nothing happened, it's a bogus story. A duty officer at NYPD's 18th precinct, who denied to be named so we'll name him John Doe, said nothing happened, it's a bogus story. Don't believe everything you read in the newspapers. The 18th precinct is at 306 West 45th Street, the closest to where the chase took place. When asked about the length of the chase, Mayor Adams told the reporters that he was still being briefed on the incident but said, I would find it hard to believe there was a 2-hour high-speed chase. Shocker. It's New York City. You can't do it. It's not possible. This isn't Mission Impossible or Fast and Furious. It's not likely. It may have felt like 2 hours, but if anything, it was more than likely to go from one block to another less than 2 minutes unless you were stuck behind a taxi. Now, one article had to say that not one member of the royal family has reached out to Prince Harry following news of a car chase. During an interview with BBC Newsnight, royal biographer Omid Scobie said it's impossible not to think of Princess Diana when we hear about car accidents and this kind of aggressive paparazzi chase. And so I was really surprised to hear from sources that not one member of the royal family, including King Charles and Prince William, who were obviously heavily affected by Princess Diana's death, had not reached out to Prince Harry hours after this news had broken. Sadly, that kind of shows the state of disrepair that the relationship is. Blah 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 blah. Well, there's more. Harry and Meghan have demanded that Back Grid hand over photos of the incident itself, along with any videos during the encounter, by saying, you cannot just make demands in America as kings can do. In America, I'm sure you know, property belongs to the owner of it. Third parties cannot just demand it be given to them, as perhaps kings can do. Perhaps you should sit down with your client and advise them that his English rules of royal prerogative to demand that the citizenry hand over their property to the crown was rejected by this country long ago. We stand by our founding fathers. They still, by the way, maintain it was the reckless driver of the couple and not their fault. Good luck getting those images and videos. I actually want to point out something else, because you're quite high profile individuals, so you would have thought, leaving venues and such in a city as busy as New York City, that people would have their phones out. There'd be video footage of it. There'd be photos shared of it. How strange is it that not much of that exists anywhere, and there is no news article at time of recording with any of those images or videos to corroborate your claims of high-speed 2-hour chase through New York City. A near catastrophic one, no less. Buzzy buzzwords, right, folks? The trial concerning Prince Harry and the MGN, Mirror News Group people, is in its 6th week. It's been going on for quite some time. There are other people who are also involved in this, but Prince Harry is obviously the focus of this because he alleges unlawful information gathering via a phone hack. Prince Harry spent a total of a day and a half in the witness box giving statements, answering questions, and being probed over inconsistencies. These inconsistencies were probed considerably because they were derived from his book Spare. One of many articles I saw came from The Guardian that said Prince Harry's clash in court left him lost for words but not defeated. Watching Prince Harry in court last week, it was tempting to believe that he had no idea what he had let himself in for. That King Charles's son had been horribly ill-advised in bringing his phone hacking case against Mirror Group newspapers to the King's Bench, and therefore committing himself to an unprecedented day-and-a-half cross-examination from a forensic King's Counsel. The reports from the newspapers screamed how the Duke of Sussex was in the land of total speculation, and that he was rattled and mumbling as his case fell apart, and that he was not aware of any evidence that he had been hacked. What could he have been thinking? Something which he did also concede. He had to speculate because he had no definitive proof that they were hacking his phone, that they had his ex-girlfriend's phone numbers, that they were running articles that seemed coincidental, yes, but he had nothing to actually validate those beliefs. He went so far as to write a witness statement, which was released on Wednesday morning, saying Piers Morgan, who was the editor of The Mirror at that time, and his band of journalists earwigging into my mother's private and sensitive messages, in the same way as they have me, makes me feel physically sick, because everything's about his mother. With no level of irony, he suggested that it was a downward spiral for his life, whereby the tabloids would constantly try and coax me, a damaged young man, into doing something stupid that would make a good story and sell lots of newspapers. Such behaviour on their part is utterly vile, says the guy who dressed up as a Nazi for a fancy dress party. All of which is additionally quite amusing because a good deal made of the prince's admission in court that the case had not even been his idea. Actually, it was entirely his barrister, David Shearborn's idea to do. Clearly, journalists aren't influencing him as much as he thinks, although he does need them. It's a somewhat symbiotic relationship at this point, like French fried chins and Foodie Beauty. What makes this case on its own quite fascinating is it's not the only one. You see, David Shearborn's also going to represent Prince Harry against Associated Newspapers, the parent company of the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday, and against Rupert Murdoch's son, because they all are accused of phone hacking and, wiretapping, all that stuff, the clandestine shadiness, right? Now, the reason Shearborn actually took an interest in this case goes back to 2015, where he actually managed to get £1.2 million paid to 8 victims of phone hacking by MGN, which included a few famous people, That ruling followed an admission and an apology by the same group. On the face of it, I've yet to indicate why this could be stupid. The handling of the situation certainly doesn't help Harry in the slightest. He doesn't want the attention, yet he's doing everything he can to generate as much attention as possible. He blames the journalists, but actually it's everyone else around him making him do these things. Whether there's any validity to the phone hacking, I'm not entirely sure. That has to be proven. Problem with UK courts is high probability is where we often end up, and that doesn't mean definitive. It's akin to that of a science experiment with no actual result. Queen Consort Camilla's biographer Christopher Wilson set out 20 things that Meghan and Harry have done wrong. Some of them couldn't care less about, but ones like not to brag. Harry indicated the happiest days of his life were in the army, but his memoir he claims that actually, no, that's not the case. Spare change. Princess Diana bitterly regretted making public her version of the breakdown of her marriage. Harry's memoir, Spare, caused almost the same level of hurt. Diana wrought her revenge without taking a penny. Harry got $16.5 million in advance. Didn't that book go on sale, really quickly, clearance sale? Fast or reduced because people weren't actually that interested? You have those that were broadcasting the Oprah Winfrey interview they did, the blame game where essentially Harry blames William for most of the things wrong with his life. Because of the fallout with William and Kate, they barely lived at Frogmore and sodded off. It cost the taxpayer a lot of money, by the way. The high-speed chase incident, that was a load of bollocks, and entirely because his security were not prepared to do their job because they weren't trained to, and because he thought he was more important than he actually is. The visa concern, yes, that legal case could lead to the release of his immigration papers, which it should, and there is speculation that much like King Edward VIII, who sold his story to make money, once the tale is told, there'll be nothing left to sell. Harry risks the same discovery, that bearing his soul only cheapens his image. And what image is there afterwards? Not much, really. He's a pretentious, balding twat, that dunks on his family for money. I mean, we can all do that from time to time, but he's not the smartest. The reason we're talking about Harry today is because Harry has been losing. Harry keeps losing. Ever since the release of Spare and getting memed on a number of TV shows, Harry is not looking very good. He and Meghan's approval rating is actually going down. This in turn is quite tickle-worthy because neither of them are doing particularly great, yet they are trying to make it seem like they are. One's a fraud who records her parts of a podcast separately to the guests because why fraternize with the subordinates, am I right? And then Harry, I'll be honest, he's busy trying to play victim with journalists, as if anyone is remotely surprised that they have no integrity in the first place, journalists that is. That's not to say Harry has any integrity either, of course not. But let's face it, there's only one thing more desperate than him trying desperately to get that money and that acknowledgement from the tabloids, and that would be the few remaining hair follicles desperately clinging to his head. On the 27th of July 2023, Prince Harry was due to be back in the witness box at the High Court. This has concerned some people close to the royal family, some of their friends adding that the royals would do their best to avoid being distracted by Harry's legal battles, with a family friend telling the Daily Beast, no idea if they're credible or not, everyone in the family completely accepts that Harry is a private citizen, that's why he's called a prince, and can do what he likes without reference to the family. That doesn't mean they have to like it. Of course, they are massively irritated by the prospect of more blockbuster Harry trials, but they have been expecting it. There is also the defamation case against the Mail, don't forget. Their goal is to just keep plugging away and not get distracted by any of it. Another source said that Harry or Meghan making court appearances, publishing further books or making films was now widely considered inevitable, and that the policy of not commenting or reacting had been judged a success by the family. A strategy that I can agree with. It's not that they're putting their head in the sand, it's that they are letting him show his hand. Show his hand and respond when you need to respond. But in reality, the more Harry does, because less is supposed to be more, in this case, he's putting it all out there, when he can, for money. By showing his hand early, he is showing what he really is. A grifter. He is showing what he really is. Fragile and egotistical, narcissistic, desperate. He wants to be validated, so he can continue to push whatever message he thinks will make him the most money. So, grift is accurate. The reactions from those friends came after a senior judge ruled on Thursday that Harry can proceed with a key part of his ongoing legal action against the news group newspapers, NGN. They are the publishers of British tabloid The Sun. Harry can proceed to trial with allegations that The Sun and the now shuttered News of the World used unlawful information gathering techniques such as blagging, which involves tricking third parties into disclosing confidential information about targets to get stories on him. However, not everything is working out for Harry in this respect, because it does swing in roundabouts here. He may get his way on one thing, but he isn't on something else. And that's quite important. You see, one of his other accusations involves phone hacking, yeah? Harry's allegation was that there was a secret agreement about phone hacking made between the royals and NGN, which hid information from him, which a judge in turn said did not reach the necessary threshold of plausibility, and that no witness or documentary evidence supports the claim, and none have been offered. Therefore, the phone hacking claims against The Sun have been thrown out. Now, it should be pointed out, while NGN hail this as a victory, a former British Member of Parliament affiliated with the hacked-off pressure group called Evan Harris told the Daily Beast that the judgment was a major strategic setback for NGN because it was all or nothing for them, who wanted to get rid entirely of the claims being made by Harry and Hugh Grant to avoid a court showdown. Evan Harris also pointed out that NGN paid out millions of pounds, allegedly also a rather large settlement to Prince William, precisely to avoid being dragged. An independent observer, Mark Stevens, a media lawyer, partner at firm Howard Kennedy, told the Daily Beast he believed it could be argued the newspapers had shaded it over Harry. Given that more of the case has been thrown out, than left in, and it was not possible for Harry to dress the judgment up as a victory. But echoing Harris's argument, he said the paper's aim was to get the whole thing thrown out, and they have failed. That is a problem for them because the newspapers have to win everything to win overall. Harry only has to show one example of unlawful news gathering to win overall, which there's some truth to, but thankfully the court of public opinion likes to look at this and go, bitch, no, because you can still win this one little bit here, and they did do something wrong there if you win it. However, you still got to prove it first. It does not change the fact you sued them for all these other accusations that have been thrown out because of a lack of plausible evidence. But there is another thing here. You see, in the written judgment, the judge said the trial might take place in 2024 or 2025. Now this can be considered quite annoying to many people, myself included, because I firmly believe while evidence gathering is important, that is a huge window of evidence gathering. Huge. And I get wanting to be thorough, but this seems a bit excessive. But additionally, there is the complaint, the belief, that actually this exceeded the statute of limitations, which in the case of this is 6 years. It is believed though that Harry didn't know, or would not have known, could not have known, when he filed his complaint that it had exceeded, therefore his accidental ignorance would have been the reason why this could be brought forward. I felt that that came across as a bit disingenuous, and comes across as a form of preferential treatment just to give someone a chance to save face. But since a vast majority of everything has been thrown out so far, it doesn't look that great. The blagging thing should be interesting because people blag all the time. How you prove that with some form of evidence, I'm not entirely sure. So how the royals proceed, according to the Mail on Sunday, is that state visits are back in business, something which wasn't really as much of a thing in the later years for Queen Elizabeth. Charles, Camilla, William, Kate, they took up those responsibilities. Of course, Harry did as well when he was part of it. This is because, now that they're back in business doing it, Charles and Camilla's good health should be maximised to help the brand, to help the United Kingdom, because that's what it does. The ambassadorial work they do does wonders for trade. And it has been at this point a decade since a reigning monarch in this country has actually gone overseas to do those long-haul travels. The issue with that is, while the king himself is trying to ignore it, not to give it a second thought, other countries and their media aren't so generous in that ignoring, right? Especially countries within the Commonwealth that might want to leave, or those who claim to want to leave but don't, or countries that perhaps see how the United Kingdom has treated Harry and Meghan because we don't like them, and thought, well, if you're like that really, we shouldn't deal with you. Then again, after how the King of England treated President Joe Biden, you should be bloody lucky, America, that our king was as patient as he was, because Biden did not look like he belonged anywhere other than a care home. If anything, he showed a remarkable kindness in showing him where to go, although not holding his hand to walk up a couple steps was, yeah, that was the right thing to do, because if he fell over it would have been funnier. Man trips over a sandbag, God's sake. I should add an important thing now. My disdain towards Prince Harry has nothing to do with the legal case against any tabloid, and I do not support any of the tabloids at the same time. I am intrigued to see how it plays out, and I am trying my best to be as objective as I can be when somebody's having many claims they make against a tabloid thrown out, leaving just blagging. Tabloids have virtually no trust with the people because they are corrupt institutions. Of course they are. They're solely interested in making money and not reporting on the news because they're businesses. So is there such a thing as journalistic integrity? No, of course not. You can say the same for someone like myself. With all the sources that I cite, I have a bias. It is important to acknowledge that and to encourage people to make their own decisions, which is why when this goes to a court, it must be decided by those in that room, and we must respect that decision. Do I think The Sun or NGN get out of this scot-free? No, of course not. I think they have done something wrong, of course I do. Do I think that vindicates Harry? Of course not. He's had to make up so many claims to find one that sticks. It's like he threw glue and glitter at a wall, and whatever stuck was the claim. Everything else that fell doesn't matter. Inconsequential, irrelevant, dismissible, even though fabricated is fabricated, therefore lie. If someone is willing to make these lies up, you have to wonder how far someone is willing to push that level of lie, or that level of delusion, to try and get something on someone else. Granted, I do believe he had something, but it wasn't plausible. It wasn't enough, it wasn't good enough. And that's another point. making sure your claims stack up to any level of intellectual scrutiny and scrutiny of courts, investigators, prosecutors, and defense who have to defend against this is key and fundamentally important. The process must be respected, but it doesn't stop Harry being a colossal bellend who is solely doing this to cash in, because if he wins the blagging, he can use that for more documentaries, more podcasts, more books, which just shows you how far someone is willing to go to try and make extra money. And I get it. He needs to cash in on something, and he's basically using his dead mother as a way of doing it. I thought royalty was supposed to have a level of class. In the context of this video, we needed all of that. Harry's had a very active 2023. Active because not everything has gone his own way. A number of deals have fallen apart, things have been cancelled, he has been mocked, but some things have gone his way, and we're ending the year with things that have and haven't. It's getting quite fascinating, really. You can only take your lies so far after all. So the first thing we need to discuss is the fact that Prince Harry is now allowed to take his phone hacking claims against the Daily Mail to trial. This is from a recent ruling via the High Court in the United Kingdom, because the judge found that the Associated Newspapers, the parent company, failed to deliver the knockout blow to the lawsuit. And this is because the Associated Newspapers had tried to have an application to throw out the claims. There are other people who are claimants against them. You have Elton John, Elizabeth Hurley, Baroness Doreen Lawrence. The publisher had argued that the alleged wrongdoing took place more than 6 years before the claim was brought, meaning that the claimants had in effect run out of time under the laws of limitation. The judge, though, found that the newspaper had failed to deliver on any of the claims a blow that could be considered a knockout, and that this would then continue to trial. While this is going on, Harry's wife Meghan is actually having a Markle v Markle trial, worth about $75,000. So not really much to her, but one that can be damaging to her reputation because it involves defamation. Samantha has claimed that her sister during the Oprah interview defamed her in order to cover up the Duchess's false rags to riches narrative. Now, she had tried to portray herself as being that. However, that has been summarily debunked by pretty much everyone at this point. She is not a rags to riches individual. She came from, well, she's the beneficiary of what is more commonly known as white privilege. The trial itself is not going to be taking place anytime soon. It's going to be taking place on the 4th of November 2024 in Tampa, Florida. It should be added that initially the trial was actually rejected. It was dismissed by the judge, the case as it were. But a year later, it was allowed. I don't know if that's because of the state that they're in or for any other reason, really. Proof is a possibility though, and I keenly await that, but of course we've got to wait a year for that one to actually resolve itself over a 5-day period in 2024, nearer to the merry Meggy month of Moist West End. It's a bit weird. Recently in the news, an individual called Omid Scobie has been featuring in the news. They are a biographer, and they've released something that has caused quite a storm. The latest book about the royal family, called Endgame, is now out, and there were some talking points in it that are interesting. Now, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are claimed to be an impatient couple who ran hot while negotiating their exit from the royal family. He said this while he's trying to distance himself from the label of Meg's pal. Okay. His words came in an interview with the Evening Standard when it asked him to say something critical about the couple's evidence. There was no friendship between them. Asked to criticise them to further his case, Scobie describes Meghan and Harry as, and then I've obviously described those bits earlier already. Those criticisms, though, don't make it into Scobie's book. He does, however, detail an episode in which Prince Harry was called out for hypocrisy by the press for taking 4 private jet flights in 11 days. Yes, he's quite the eco-warrior, didn't you know? It is also claimed by Omid that Prince William was briefed the press about his younger brother Prince Harry amid the ongoing rift between the two. Scobie, who is also an ABC News Royal contributor, claimed that William alleged press briefing is among the things that have caused the irreparable damage between William and Harry. Quote, he's sharing private information about his brother that ended up on the front page of a newspaper not long after, and these are things that have caused irreparable damage in the relationship between the two. Now, the book itself has actually been pulled from some bookshops, for example in the Netherlands, because there was a royal who questioned Archie's skin colour, that is Harry and Meghan's first child. They were named in the book. This did not go down well, so the production had to be stopped in the Netherlands. This is claimed to have been done as an error in the Dutch translation. I'm not entirely sure how you translate a name from English to Dutch and somehow it be worse or not worse, or include it and not include it. You get my point? Now, according to the Mirror, there are 6 errors about the royals in that book. For example, Princess Diana's death conspiracy. In the book, Omid claims the accident happened after Henry was blinded by a major white flash from a camera. Henry then lost control of the car at 65 miles per hour. This was part of Mohammed Al-Fayed's claims that the accident was part of a royal family plot. He also claimed it was actually the Secret Service agents who blinded the driver. Both French authorities and former Met Police Chief Lord Stevens dismissed this. The second, the palace lies about Queen Camilla, should be Queen Consort. Endgame claims that the palace lied by saying Queen Camilla would in fact not be made queen. She was originally given the title Queen Consort in a statement following Queen Elizabeth's death. However, that was changed when the royal family revealed King Charles's coronation invitations, which seemed to confirm she was referred to as Queen Camilla. Prior to her death, Queen Elizabeth II said it was her sincere wish for Camilla to be named Queen instead of Queen Consort. That is not something I knew. I always thought it was Queen Consort. If the Queen believed that Queen should be what Camilla should be referred to, of course, I fully support. The next was King Charles's tense relationship with Harry. Harry and his wife Meghan stepped back from the royal family 3 years ago. They've made bombshell claims, Netflix docuseries, Spotify podcasts, and of course the book Spare, which was mocked to high hell as a rather crappy emo diary. Endgame claims that Charles did not try to fix the relationship with Harry after he moved to America. Let's ignore the fact that King Charles actually paid for the house that Harry lives in. Let's ignore the fact that King Charles was the one that made sure he was at his coronation. Let's ignore the fact that King Charles called him on his 75th birthday to talk to his son. Let's ignore the fact that he and Queen Elizabeth II had tried to fix the relationship between himself, Harry that is, and William. Omid is doing some remarkable historical revisionism in this. The next claim. Prince William distanced himself from his brother. In the book, Omid claims that William distanced himself from Harry following the latter's wedding to Meghan in 2018. However, on multiple occasions, they were all seen together attending events. The rift, though, became apparent a year after the wedding. That much is known. Next, Charles and Diana's infidelity. According to The Sun, Omid Scobie's new book paints Charles as a cheating husband who ruined Princess Diana's life, but this is not entirely true. James Hewitt had claimed to have had a relationship with Diana from 86 to 91, which is why many believe he is the real father of Prince Harry. Diana also admitted in recordings that were released after her death to have being in love with her bodyguard, Barry Manicky. Charles had previously had a relationship with Camilla in the early 70s. Unpopular monarchy is the last one. The book claims the monarchy is dwindling in popularity. However, a recent survey by YouGov shows that the support is still at 58%. Other surveys from the National Centre for Social Research found that 55% of the British public consider the monarchy to be important. Charles's recent approval rating is seen at 62%. If you're going to dunk on the royal family, Omid Scobie, please get your facts right first. And how this ties into Harry, of course, is that this is somebody who was considered a friend of Meghan Markle's. They are acting in the name, I guess, but without permission. I guess they're clout chasing. Maybe that's what it is. In the case of Omid Scobie, they have indicated that they will name both royals they have name dropped as being racist in their book. If that does happen, there is going to be undoubtedly a lawsuit or two on their hands. Omid, though, has actually said that Meghan and Harry missed out an opportunity here because they made the claims in 2021 during the Oprah interview. They had a Netflix documentary and Harry's memoir Spare, and they didn't talk about it at any point. The querying about Archie's skin colour. It was never raised again as a point of contention or a point of discussion that should have been raised. I personally think there's a simpler way around this. First of all, if you show your entire hand early, people aren't going to stick around longer, are they? But also, and this is quite an important point to raise, not all of the points they made against the royal family stuck, meaning they had to play very carefully and have had to over the 2023, the year of, because not only did some of those points not stick, but they got blowback. They have to play the optics game. Don't forget here, their Netflix contracts aren't doing so well, nor is Spotify for that matter. Things are dwindling. Harry's only relevant when he moans about the royal family, but as he does that more and more, people are less interested in what he has to offer. Meghan does her own podcast, but doesn't really do her own podcast. It is claimed that she's not even in the same room as the people and simply dubs her audio over people asking as if it was an interview instead. I fully expect in 2024 for things to continue to decline for the Megxit train, because there's no version of it where it goes up again, because Harry's blown his load in his book Spare, which was panned. They had their documentary, and they couldn't milk it as much as they wanted because they were unable to get some of the photo ops at the coronation that they would have wanted. Yeah, not a good look really, is it? And Omid here is showing their hand as well. By doing so, they are poisoning the well for Harry and Meghan, who would now want to do what's best for their brand and distance themselves from it. Or it will cause them more blowback because Omid is only known because of Meghan. What sucks really is, while there are many people scrambling to get their hands on the original copy in Dutch before it's turned to mush, there are many in other countries who will eat that up regardless, lap it up, rather than listen to the Brits who simply tell you, "You're wrong." Yet it doesn't really matter if they're wrong or not, does it? Soundbites are where it's at for a lot of people. And in this, it can only harm Harry and Meghan unless they publicly denounce it. It can be said though, over the year 2023 and 2022, they made a lot of money. Penguin paid $20 million to get the book Spare written, although I do believe they expect 4 books, was it? A lot of money was invested through Spotify and through Netflix. They're able to use that fame, that notoriety, the wealth that comes with it, to branch out and continue to push the message they believe the public need to see. I guess I'm a little bit intrigued to see what Harry and Meghan do next. I assume make up another claim of a car chase in a very, very heavily populated city where you can't have a car chase. Oh, and allegedly, at time of recording on the 29th of November, one of the royals allegedly concerned with the race of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's child was the now King Charles III. As a final point I really want to drive home, it is my belief, and the belief of many in the United Kingdom, that the titles that Harry and Meghan use should be given back. They don't intend to live in the United Kingdom anymore nor serve as acting royals. Therefore the entire Sussex title is a besmirchment to those of Sussex and the British people, the English more notably. There have been calls from people to perhaps have their citizenship revoked. I don't care so much about that. Well, for Harry's anyway, it doesn't mean anything really. And a point of contention I didn't raise when I mentioned the approval rating of the royal family. Duke of Sussex has an approval rating of 39%, with a guaranteed 27 not liking him at all. His positive approval, net positive, is +12, down 6 points. Meghan Markle is most popular among 18 to 26 year olds, with an overall rating of +19. Harry's rating with the baby boomers, -7. You can tell he is very, very well liked, and I'm sure this will carry through and totally not diminish further if he keeps on opening his mouth and writing checks that he can't cash. In 2024, that is.